Hello and welcome to my Guild Wars 2 and Final Fantasy XIV comparison video. My name is Embry, I am one half of Project Dyad and I'm so excited to share this with all of you. I'm a longtime Final Fantasy XIV player and within a year, I've played so much Guild Wars 2 and really feel I can tell the difference with both games at this point. So first, let's start off with introducing you to both games. Final Fantasy XIV allows you to play the base game as well as the first expansion. Your level does stop at 60. This does exclude some in-game features like you can't participate in PvP, can't form a party, you can join one, you can't join a free company or FC for short, or trade other players. You also can't use the market board, which is the player-driven auction house. Final Fantasy XIV is your traditional subscription MMO, which has different subscription choices with discounts for buying more months at a time. Final Fantasy XIV is available currently on PS4, PS5, Steam, or directly from their own launcher. They do run sales fairly often on the complete edition. Guild Wars 2 also allows you to play the base game. You can level up to max, which is 80, excluding some in-game features as well, very similar to Final Fantasy XIV. You will be able to join parties and guilds, but you will have to hit certain level requirements to go to some areas, like hitting level 10 before you go into a first town. You also can't mail items, which is the in-game train system. You won't be able to use Black Line Train Company to the fullest, and only be able to buy and sell common items. Guild Wars 2 only requires you to purchase the expansion, so no subscription, and the expansions can be purchased as a bundle to save you a little bit of money. Guild Wars 2 is only available on its own launcher on PC. Final Fantasy XIV's world selection is a bit confusing because you choose a data center and server. You can check their page for server status, but in the actual game it does not show you what the population is. It shows you America, Europe, and Japan's data center in the servers as you are choosing. As well, it will highlight the best one for you, pin-wise. You can play with friends if they are on the same data center, but you won't be able to join their free company. They give you two subscription options. Entry allows you to have 1 character per server, and Standard allows you to have 8 per server. Although no alts are needed, you can level up every job on 1 character. Alts are mainly for role-playing purposes or to join a different data center for friends. The character creation in 14 does a good job at giving players enough freedom to customize their characters in a great number of ways, but also isn't too in-depth. There are 8 races in Final Fantasy. Which race you choose does not matter in my opinion, as there is no racial advantage in this game. One noticeable difference is it will change your starting outfit. Guild Wars 2 world selection is a lot simpler. You choose your location, NA or EU, and then it gives you all of the home worlds and the population, full, high, or low. You can also play with friends if they are on the same mega server, as well as being a guild together. Currently unable to do world vs world together unless on the same home world like Crystal Desert. When you play for free, you receive 2 character slots. When you buy a game, you do go up to 5. You can also purchase additional slots. You get up to 69 slots per account. Nice. You do need alts for each profession. Achievements, mounts, and outfits are account bound, but map completion is not. There are 5 races. Whatever race you choose will determine your starting area in the game, as well as the beginning storyline. Each race will also have a set of unique skills and unique cultural armor. The skills can be used for PvE and world vs world content, but non-structured PvP. The character creation in Guild Wars also does a good job at giving players enough freedom to customize their characters in a great number of ways. One huge thing is they do have a lot more diversity options for hair. There is also more customization you can unlock with makeover kits later on. Next, we'll be talking about leveling and progression. First, Final Fantasy XIV level sync definitely kills me. This is a great way to keep content relevant and not to dominate everything, but the progression feels slow because of this. When you get synced down, you can only use abilities that you would have access to at that level. There's tons of fetch quests like Return to the Awakened Sands. I think this one really bugs me because something important is happening with the story, yet you're dancing to 20 different people in 20 different areas just cuz. Solo leveling is viable around the first 30 levels or so. You don't have maps unlocked, dungeons, or trials right off the bat. You need to do story to unlock these things. So if I'm level 8 and my friend is a new player at level 10, it's hard to play together as they won't have any zones unlocked. Guild Wars 2 level sync is great. You get to feel powerful at max level A zones, and you get to keep your abilities when you drop down to lower level zones. So content scales to a player, not the other way around. There aren't traditional quests like talk to an NPC, do a task, and turn in the quest. A lot of stuff is in the open world and gets completed as you do activities. A dynamic event system replaces traditional questing. Guild Wars 2 doesn't really have quest lines in the way of other MMOs. You've got your personal story that can be done solo or as a group, including the instance missions, but is perfect for playing with friends right off the bat. Full story can be done solo or in groups as well. In Final Fantasy, most story quests will have to be done solo, as you can't bring party members into story instances with you. Final Fantasy XIV has a tab target system, more traditional in combat. You're more stationary in casting, and honestly, the start of it's a bit slow. It does pick up though once you unlock more skills. There's no dodge rolling, no jumping to avoid AoEs, but you do gain abilities to move away quickly. And most classes also gain a few interrupts and stuns to stop casted actions from most enemies. Otherwise, you just kinda move out of the way. Most enemies' attacks are telegraphed, so you do know what to dodge. Final Fantasy is built around the Holy Trinity gameplay style. You have your tanks, healers, and DPS for all content. These are preset jobs such as Warrior as a tank and Dragoon as a DPS. There are many complex and fun classes, but no freedom in playstyle. One class has one correct playstyle, and one gear and weapon type. So my White Mage will have the same abilities as your White Mage. Improving means mastering your rotation, learn how to utilize off-global cooldowns, and learn in fights. Combat in Guild Wars 2 is flexible, fast-paced, and dynamic. Attack on the move, dodge and roll away from enemy blows, and come to your allies' rescue mid-battle. Classes can be customized in several ways. The weapons you use, the gear you wear, and the elite spec you use. Once you're max level and have decent gear for your build, you're mostly set. Gear will not become useless, but there's still room to improve with acquiring ascended gear and playing around with runes and what works for you. There's no hard Holy Trinity, more of a soft one. This comes more into endgame rain and fractals. This is done through builds. Professions are not predetermined into set roles, so Guardian can be tank, support, or DPS. So both games have incredible artwork and lore. Final Fantasy XIV makes the story mandatory. You need to do the story unlock most things, like dungeons, raids, and new areas. There's tons of reading and voice acting, story-wise. I believe they definitely set a high bar for voice acting in MMOs. I'm super invested in 14's storyline because it's so well done. Exploration is very underutilized. As it stands, we have fates, hunts, maps, and of course crafting and Garen. But these really aren't implemented until way later. There's also a lot of neat places that aren't really utilized much or at all. There are large open maps, but outside of story, there isn't a reason to explore them, which leads to people hanging out at their FC house or in town. Guild Wars base game story can almost be entirely skipped. Granted, there are good rewards such as Black Lion keys. You'll have to do expansion storylines to unlock certain features such as mounts and Glion. You also have a living world story which progresses through patches. You can go to your story journal and select where you like to start. They do offer a high quality main story. It is almost fully voice acted to a high standard, and the story missions are crafted with love. Guild Wars story is definitely a lot shorter than Final Fantasies. Exploration in Guild Wars feels fun. You have jump-in puzzles that give you rewards, events constantly happen, a huge map, and hidden areas. There's always stuff to do in maps, which makes the world feel alive. Players are always running around, and of course NPCs will say little voice lines as you go past them. Final Fantasy offers tons of dungeons and raids, there's content for everyone, and most dungeons and walkthrough the story are very easy to get into for all skill levels. You can do basic dungeons without worrying about rotations or optimization, but you can also move into savage raids and extreme trials which will require very high knowledge of your job. These are not just done without learning the fights and placements. You also have a bit of open world content you can explore for some rewards such as hunts, which we have talked about before in another video. These are open world bosses or mobs that you must kill a certain amount to get the rewards. There are also fates, which are just small objectives you can usually solo, and special fates like Owen Spawnin, which usually need special requirements met prior. These fights are insanely fun. Maps are available once you reach level 50, but there is a map set for every 10 levels after that. These are done by unlocking maps through a small quest line, then deciphering the map and finding the hidden spot. Sometimes these chests will spawn portals to treasure rooms which need to be done with a group, as they are instance-based. These are very fun and have good rewards for players. 14 doesn't have the largest PvP scene, but they do have a few options. You can do 4 vs 4 PvP, large-scale PvP with 72 people, as well as 24 vs 24. There are dedicated communities that run this content, and this is something we do often as it does offer really good experience and some nice gear for outfits. Guild Wars 2 has dungeons as well. There are 8 dungeons, each with a story mode and 3 explorable modes, which take you to different objectives in the same area. New dungeons haven't been added since the original launch. Instead, we do get access to new fractals. Fractals are small instance content. They are shorter mini dungeons essentially, and they range in difficulty since you can scale them up as you wish. These do get very hard without having a proper build. You can also step into Rain and Strikes, which is done with 10-man parties. This is the horror endgame group content for players to explore together. As I mentioned, they do offer a ton of open world content, which is what a lot of people focus on. You can always find people running groups who farm meta events or world bosses, and they're always a ton of fun to join. Guild Wars has a lot to offer in PvP. You can do structured PvP, which is 5 vs 5, or taking out the enemy's commander NPC. This can be done in ranked or unranked, as well as world vs world, which is a crazy beautiful mess. This is just a ton of players all fighting for control of a map. It is usually large groups running together a cap. Both modes offer great rewards to a player and can be used to level your characters. Just as a note, World vs World is currently in the process of being changed to Alliance vs Alliance, so you can queue with your guild instead of your selected world, but this change hasn't been implemented yet. In all honesty, I do love both games and would recommend both to people. Both have such amazing communities and each have their own strengths and weaknesses. Thank you guys so much for taking your time and watching this video, and if you have any questions, we do stream 4 days a week on Twitch, so you can come catch us there. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye guys! I guess that I was hoping I could break